In the quiet heartland of America, where the rhythm of life was measured by the seasons and the hum of distant highways, 1992 began like any other year. A tapestry of small towns, each with its own unique charm, where generations had lived and worked, fostering a deep sense of security. Their main streets were lined with family-owned businesses, their communities bound by trust and familiarity. People left their doors unlocked, children played freely, and the biggest worry was often the weather. The air was thick with the scent of blooming spring, promising renewal, but what arrived instead was a chilling, unprecedented darkness. This was a place where strangers were greeted with a nod, not suspicion, until April 8th. That day in Indianapolis, Indiana, a sense of unease began to ripple through the calm. The discovery sent shockwaves, not just through Indianapolis, but across the entire region. Vicki Heath, a 47-year-old mother and grandmother, was found murdered in the back room of the Payless shoe source store she managed. She had been bound, gagged, and shot in the back of the head. Vicki Heath was not just a manager. She was a beloved figure in her community, a woman whose life revolved around her family and her work. The motive appeared to be robbery, but the sheer violence of her death, the cold, calculated execution, suggested something far more sinister than a simple robbery gone wrong. It was a brutal violation of the quiet trust that permeated these communities, a stark warning that the world was perhaps not as safe as they had always believed. An anomaly, perhaps, a tragic, isolated incident in a city that prided itself on its friendly demeanor. But then, just 2 days later, 120 miles west in Terre Haute, Indiana, another life was extinguished. The horrifying consistency of the crimes was undeniable. 2 days, 2 separate locations, 3 lives brutally taken, all with the same chilling signature. Patricia Maggers, 32, and her 30-year-old coworker, Patricia Smith, were found dead in the back of the Le Petit Tort bakery. Like Vicki Heath, they had been bound, gagged, and shot in the head. The cash register was open, money gone. The method of execution, the binding, the gagging, the single gunshot to the head, and the empty cash register painted a grim picture. This was no longer a series of isolated incidents. This was the work of a methodical, ruthless predator, and the realization sent a collective shiver down the spine of the Midwest. 2 states, 2 days, 3 victims, all women, all shot in the head, all in small businesses. A chilling pattern began to emerge, one that would soon cast a long, terrifying shadow across the Interstate 70 corridor. The Interstate 70, a vital artery of commerce and travel, usually represented connection and opportunity. But in that fateful spring, it transformed into a terrifying conduit for death. A ribbon of asphalt stretching thousands of miles, connecting cities and towns, a symbol of freedom and movement. Law enforcement agencies, initially treating these as separate local crimes, started to connect the dots. What began as local investigations quickly escalated into a multi-state crisis. Detectives from different jurisdictions, initially working in silos, began to share information, and the horrifying truth became clear. A single individual was responsible, using the very infrastructure designed for progress to spread terror across state lines. The method, the target, the sheer proximity. This wasn't random. This was a predator, moving with chilling efficiency, leaving a trail of unspeakable grief. The efficiency with which this killer operated, striking and then vanishing, was as unnerving as the violence itself. The tension mounted with each passing day. The killer's brazenness escalated with each passing day. On April 11th, the very next day after the Terre Haute tragedy, the predator struck again, 250 miles further west, in Wichita, Kansas. This time, the victim was Michael McCown, a 40-year-old man, found dead in the back of the Graves truck line office. He was the first male victim, but the method remained horrifyingly consistent: bound, gagged, and shot in the head. This suggested a killer who was not only prolific, but also adaptable, growing bolder with each successful strike. The sheer audacity of it, moving across state lines with such speed, left law enforcement agencies scrambling, struggling to comprehend how one person could execute such a widespread reign of terror and then disappear without a trace. Who was this phantom? How could he vanish so completely after each strike? The once unthinkable became the new reality. The news spread like wildfire, carried on the airwaves, and whispered in hushed tones across kitchen tables. The airwaves buzzed with warnings, and the whispers of fear permeated every conversation. Communities that had once prided themselves on their open, trusting nature were forced to confront a new, unsettling reality. People who had never locked their doors now double-checked them. Small business owners, particularly those who worked alone, found themselves looking over their shoulders, their livelihoods now shadowed by a pervasive sense of dread. The friendly wave to a stranger was replaced by a wary, suspicious glance. The very fabric of community, built on trust and neighborliness, was being torn apart by an unseen hand, leaving a profound sense of violation in its wake. The universal theme of safety, of home, of community was being brutally violated. Just when communities hoped the nightmare might be over, the killer struck again. On April 27th, a little over 2 weeks after the Wichita murder, the terror returned eastward, this time to St. Charles, Missouri, a suburb of St. Louis. 23-year-old Nancy Kitzmiller, a vibrant young woman with her whole life ahead of her, was found murdered in the back of the Boot Village shoe store. The scene was tragically familiar. Bound, gagged, shot in the head, the cash register emptied. Nancy was a young woman, just starting her life, and her senseless death sent a fresh wave of panic through the region. The killer's pattern was now terrifyingly clear. Unpredictable in location, yet chillingly consistent in method. He was a phantom, circling the heartland, leaving a trail of devastation and despair. Law enforcement agencies, now working collaboratively, across